Hello everyone! We got ourselves some pretty huge news on Baldur's Gate 3 today. It was from an interview with Nick Pechenin, a lead system designer from Larian, and he was interviewed about the upcoming changes to multiclassing, some information about new subclasses like the Warlock's Pact of the Blade, and also how spells will function when multiclassing, which can have some pretty huge implications when it comes to multiclassing and can be a huge game changer. So we're gonna get into all of this today, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Also, as some of you already noticed, I got myself a green screen finally, but it doesn't fit into my room at all, so I will have to replace it with something else, but for the time being it is what it is. Before we get into the interview, I just wanted to share one more piece of information with you, or rather something that is still unclear among the community, namely the early access. A lot of people on Reddit and everywhere else are talking about, is the game really still having the 3-day early access with including the 4 weeks early that we're gonna get the game. So some people are still wondering if we're gonna be able to play on July 31st. Well, a couple of my past videos I said that I understood Sven Winkel that actually we don't have this 3 days early access, and people corrected me that no, we're still gonna get it because some moderator from the YouTube of Larian confirmed that it's coming, and yeah, it was a misunderstanding. But now it turns out that Larian is staying silent on the matter, and it's probably gonna be clarified on tomorrow's community update, so we will finally find out if we're gonna get those 3 days early access or not. But perhaps in the end it's gonna turn out that I understood it correctly and the 3-day early access is actually not coming, but you know, it is 50-50, we don't know yet. It might be still coming and we'll be able to play on July 31st, or if it's gonna be on August 3rd. Things point to the later date, that it will be August 3rd, but who knows, tomorrow we'll probably find out finally. There is also some cool information regarding the origin characters on character creation. They will probably get their introduction now, similarly to Divinity Original Sin 2, where every origin will probably tell a bit of their story on character creation, so you can decide if you want to play as the origin or as your custom character. A lot of people also omitted a small detail from the panel from Hell, including me, when it comes to the human race. The human race on character creation now has 3 different icons that are pretty specific to humans. It turns out that we're gonna get human proficiencies most likely, and it will most likely include light armor, spear, spike, halberd, and glaives, meaning we will be specialized in those things when you choose a human. So it is a little bonus for humans because, well, humans were a bit bland. We don't have variant humans sadly in game, so it is something to maybe look forward to. But if it's gonna stay as it is, I still think that humans will be one of the weakest races to play from a mechanical standpoint. There are also those 3 diverging arrows coming out as an icon, and it might mean, for example, maybe the skilled attribute or trait, so to speak, which gives us proficiency in maybe 3 skills of your choice, for example. If you have any ideas what this icon could mean, let me know in the comments. The interview was conducted in Italian, so we are going to use some Google Translate magic alongside a couple helpful Redditors that also translated the article from Italian. So it is pretty much one-to-one to what Nick Pechenin said, but of course some things are subject to change, some things could have been lost in translation, so especially when we're gonna come to the spell changes in multiclassing, take it with a grain of salt because it is not confirmed and anything can still change until the game comes out. So let's just be calm and get into the changes. First thing that Nick Pechenin was talking about is the removal of multiclassing requirements of ability scores, meaning you no longer need to, for example, have, well, like 13 strength and dexterity to multiclass to another class. You're actually gonna be able to do it straight away. There will even be a hidden achievement to get 1 level in every class, so it's also something new because that means that you can multiclass freely with anything you want, and there is no limit of 3 classes, which is usually homebrewed, that you can't really multiclass in more than 3. But in Baldur's Gate 3 we're actually gonna be able to multiclass to anything we want and even put 1 level in each class, which obviously won't be very useful or strong, but you can do it if you want. Now this is huge. He also talked about how they changed how magic users use spell slots, making it less punishing to level more than 1 magic class. One issue with multiclassing is that if you multiclass early into the game, you don't get strong abilities like Fireball at the same level as a pure class, he says. But we wanted players to be able to multiclass from the start of the campaign without having to necessarily wait for the advanced levels, so it was the case to revise the use of resources a bit. Another thing we've been working on a bit out of the box is that magic items into the game, how they work. Various objects have been designed or introduced with multiclassing in mind, and we put them thinking, okay, this will really help a specific combination a lot. For example, an intellect bandana that is already in early access that sets your intelligence to 17. We know of the creature that actually have this item, at least some of us do. For other martial classes that may not have invested in that stat and want to multiclass, it can be essential to not miss out by choosing a second class with completely different main stats. So when it comes to the second paragraph, we already know about it and it's really cool. It borrows from Baldur's Gate 1 and 2 a little bit, when there are items that sets your secondary ability score to 17 or 18, which enables a lot of builds, which is really cool because that means you don't have to waste your precious ability points as a fighter, for example, on intellect, because there is an item in the game that will actually available some cool multiclassing options for you. But now when it comes to the first paragraph and the use of spell slots while multiclassing, this could be a huge one, because it implies that if you multiclass to another class as a caster, for example, you're gonna start out as a sorcerer and then gonna take levels in fighter, you're still gonna keep your spellcasting level as you level up as a fighter. Of course, this is a rough translation and I hope it is not one-to-one like that. It is mentioned that they modify the resources a bit, so I'm hoping it will just make the progress a little bit more streamlined and a little bit better, but still not on the same level as having a one-to-one multi-class option, because that would mean that, well, everyone will multi-class because you're just gonna get the benefits, you're still gonna progress your spellcasting class, so there would be like no reason to not multi-class at all. So I don't think it's gonna come into the game like this. A lot of people on Reddit and everywhere else are taking out their pitchforks that the game is ruined because, well, now multi-class, everyone will multi-class, the game will be power leveled to hell and back, and it's just gonna be a mess to balance. But I think we should still calmly wait for the game to come out. I think it might be something like maybe half of the spellcasting level for martial classes, or maybe even 1/3. And then, for example, if you take a half casting class, so to speak, like the paladin or bard, then maybe it's gonna be a half of the progression, something like that. I don't know, I'm just spitballing, but the point is, I doubt it's gonna be one-to-one with the spellcasting classes, because, well, that would really just make being a single class redundant, because you could take all the best features of the spellcaster, mix it with a martial class, everyone would be a Gish-like character, and it would just be a mess. So I think they will not put something so powerful into the game. I think it will be somewhat balanced. We should put our trust into Larian to make a somewhat balanced game. Of course, there will always be combinations that will be overpowered, but, well, we'll see how it's gonna turn out. But it is a very interesting tidbit from the interview, and we have to wait and see how it's actually gonna be implemented. He also talked quite a bit about monks and mentioned about the monk of the 4 elements that is actually underpowered in D&D. I was talking about it as well in my previous videos. So they are making changes to the monk class. They're gonna give them more key points. They're gonna also make the 4 elements monk scale with levels. I mean, his spells gonna scale with levels, not to the level of a wizard or a sorcerer maybe, but they will be stronger, and because they're gonna get more key points, and because of the inclusion of the short rest that we have in Baldur's Gate, we're gonna be able to cast more spells, because the biggest problem of the 4 elements monk in D&D is that, well, they have already very powerful abilities like Stunning Fist and so on that you rather use, and Flurry of Blows and everything else that uses key points, and it is actually stronger than using the spells that the 4 elements monks get. So it's good to see they are getting some love, and it's actually gonna be a exciting class to play, I think. What's also really cool is that he mentioned that all companions will have specific story arcs that will allow them to obtain certain spells, abilities, actions that are exclusive only to them. This is really nice, because this will make origin characters be even more fleshed out and also be more interesting, because, for example, Astarion gets his bite attack fairly on. If you know why, you know why. But also this means that other origins will have their specific spells tied to them if you complete their personal quests, probably, and just gonna keep them along in your party. So this is really awesome to hear, and I just can't wait to see what else they're gonna get in the actual game. They were also talking about subclasses a little bit, namely the Warlock's Pact of the Blade, which lets him create a pact with a weapon related to him. The part of the pact that was missing was the extra attack. A lot of martial classes have an extra attack available, and Warlocks don't. The problem is that the weapons are balanced around the number of attacks per turn, so we added this to make the Pact of the Blade more interesting. This is cool, because this is like the College of Swords Bard, for example, which gets an additional attack at level 6. So probably if you're gonna go down the Pact of the Blade Warlock class, you're gonna get this feature along the way as well. And then the interviewer asked a very good question about integrating some of the Hexblade features of the Warlocked Patron that we don't have available in Baldur's Gate 3, but it's gonna be a bit merged into the Pact of the Sword Bond, which is really cool, because that implies that we might get the charisma bonus to attack and damage rolls with our Warlock. This is really cool implementation implementation of the Hexblade, because it's gonna let us keep this amazing feature of adding this charisma to our attack and damage rolls, but also gonna not make for cheesy builds in D&D that usually happen when you take only one level of Warlock for the Pact of the Hexblade, so you get this amazing feature. Now you have to invest 3 levels into Warlock to get it, and it also makes this pure Warlock stronger, so maybe finally will actually be the Blade of Frontiers that he claims to be, and he's gonna be a decent spell sword character. They ended the interview about talking about community feedback, about how hard it was to implement some Dungeons and Dragons features into the actual game. I will link the interview in the comments below, so maybe you can have your take on it, and if you know Italian, maybe you're gonna find out something that I missed. So let me know what you think about it, and well, that's it for the interview. So let us summarize, shall we? So, first of all, they removed stat prerequisites for multiclassing to make it more accessible. Fair. They designed the level up screen as to not overemphasize multiclassing. They made balancing changes specifically for caster classes only, so if you choose to multiclass caster classes, you won't be disadvantaged to the same degree in regards to the power level when comparing to that of a single spellcaster. You will still be disadvantaged, but not the same degree of tabletop. This is probably the most important and also the most significant part of the interview, because it implies a lot of changes and how we think about multiclassing in classic D&D 5th edition. So we'll see how it's gonna turn out, but remember, not to the same degree. I think we can put down our pitchforks a little bit, and I don't think it's gonna be 1-to-1, meaning that a fighter will get the same spellcasting progress as a sorcerer, because that would just make single class characters null and everyone would multiclass. So I don't think Larian will do that. I think they know what are they doing, so take it with a grain of salt and just wait for the actual information about it, how it's gonna look, and we're gonna then decide on classes and builds and everything else if something's gonna change from what we currently know. They've designed many magical items specifically with multiclassing in mind. They also gave Pact of the Blade Warlocks the extra attack feature, and also possibly the feature of adding your charisma to bonus and attack rolls. It was implied, it was not confirmed, but something like this should make it into the game, hopefully. They are going to buff Way of the Four Elements monk so that their spells upgrade over time, but never to the same spell power level of a wizard, for example, and all the companions have specific story arcs that will allow them to obtain certain spells, abilities, actions that are exclusive only to them. And that is pretty much everything we found out from the interview, and also a couple tidbits that I added myself that I found out recently. I hope you enjoyed this video and you're gonna keep watching my future ones. I really just cannot thank you enough about the reception that you're giving me on my channel. It is really amazing to see. I read all of you guys and girls comments. It is just so pleasurable to see, and I just thank you so much for being here. And also visit me on my live stream at Twitch TV Kendra, where we're gonna be streaming different RPGs until Baldur's Gate 3 come out, but also I'm gonna be making a playthrough of Baldur's Gate 3. I didn't stream recently I didn't stream since the Panel from Hell ended, but I am planning to stream a bit more on the second part of the week, so stay tuned for that. If you want a place to hang out, I'm looking forward to seeing you there. Thank you very, very, very much for watching, and I'll see you again very soon.